Hey guys, J77 here doing a flashback review. One of the very first ones I've done as a live feed, and it's not because of what's been going on with YouTube lately. Actually, this is uh, the part of the flashback review that I wanted to do live. I wanted to give my actual feeling, my actual face towards the review. And it is a movie that really hit close to home in terms of my personal life. This is a movie that can be seen in any day of the week, either the holidays, Christmas, which, by the way, guys, hope everybody had a happy Christmas, as well as just something of a family gathering, as well as an educational theme. And this is how I was first introduced to this very unique film. And just for the record, this is not just one film I'm talking about. I mean, I'm talking about two of the same films because these two films deserve to be talked about. And even though they are totally done in a different way, the theme still remains the same. And I will be doing this video a little bit longer than usual. I'm actually going to do a break between the review and my actual feeling and comparison to the film. So yes, I'm going to be doing compare and contrast with this movie, and that is The Secret Garden. The Secret Garden, I was first introduced not on television because there's two different versions I'm covering. The Hallmark version and the Warner Brother version, and both are great films. Both done very differently, both have their cult following, and if you talk to a lot of people, both have their strength as well as some of their weaknesses, and it's kind of hard to disagree with a lot of the criticism that both films have gotten. But they're real genuine criticism that even I myself as a viewer, even as a child, have noticed. And but nevertheless, it was some of these stuff that is very, very small. And to be honest, it would make the film such a classic today for many people. So in other words, what's this considered very flawed or a negative towards some was definitely positive towards others. And again, I will talk about that more in the compare and contrast review. But basically, it was, I believe, 1989. Well, no, 1988 that I have gotten introduced to this film. This film was shown in class. Everybody was gathered around in the back of the class, and our teacher put on a movie. I think it was one of those days where it was like, nothing really going on. It was close to the holiday season. I'm not too sure, but I do remember everybody gathering around, and she put The Secret Garden on. And The Secret Garden the Hallmark version began pretty much scary. It started very scary because you didn't really know what was going on. You see this woman coming back. You can easily tell by the way she was dressed. She was in pretty much either post or doing World War One or two. They didn't really say which one it was, but you knew she was at war, and you knew she was working as a nurse during the war, and she was coming back to this house which looks pretty much abandoned. You see this guy, you see this cat, and you really don't know what's going on. She went towards, you hear the voices from the past, and this is kind of almost a ruining section, because if you didn't know who these voices were, if you didn't know that was her reminiscing about her past, and you probably would not get caught out there. You probably will be saying, why are they giving away some of the stuff? But they didn't. They did a good job of not doing that. But it did left a very scary feeling towards what you're about to see. And this really just scared a lot of people because everybody was wondering what just happened, because in the scene the cat jumped. You see this cat following this girl around. She sat down and the cat jumped, and you're like, did that cat just kill this woman? And if so, what? Well, we want you to haunt the story. And the film really did played on that a little bit. It really did play on that, because no sooner did they had that, we went backwards into the past, and we see this girl, Mary Lennox, and she's pretty much right away, you already got this feeling that she's being neglected. She's not with the family. And it was only after later on we realized that she really was neglected, and the family was just basically all to think about themselves and not the person who should be they should be their top priority, and that's their daughter. Apparently that they never had a chance, because another scary theme, the children died of some kind of plague. I believe they didn't really say what it was, but a lot of us even to this day, said it was something in the food that got them sick, and it, to the point where they started dying. And you start seeing this major plague hit everywhere. Even it was suggested that even Mary Lennox has gotten the plague, but it didn't kill her, and that's largely because she didn't eat all the foods. And that's when we got a hint it must have been the food, because even though she got sick, she didn't eat enough to make it be fatal. But they never really got into that situation. But in any case, this film went already into dark territories, and no one in my class, including myself, knew what the hell they was watching. We just know this whole story of the secret garden, but it was like, I guess there's a secret for a reason. And what ended up happening as a result of this film, we all started looking at each other saying, what the hell are we watching here? But we stuck with it, and we were kind of glad we stuck with it, because the character slowly but surely started growing on us. And because of the reason is, she was very cold. She didn't know no love, and she didn't know how to give love back. She was very, very mean and responsive. She just wasn't the kind of pleasant person to be around. But that was a large reason, and it was explained through the servants, which I actually like. I believe one of the servants' characters' name, and do forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but Matlock was giving information about the family members, and in this one, and I pretty much know because I read the book pretty much. In this one, they did those few changes. It was a family friend, and the family friend agreed to watch the girl. This was how she got introduced into the Collins family. And at first, we don't know anything about it. We hear moaning, we hear groaning, so automatically we're curious about what the hell we're watching. And then the film slowly starts settling in. We start seeing her just trying to adapt. She's not having the greatest time adapting, especially with the servants. She has Martha for comfort, because Martha is pretty much is reaching out to her, and even though she's still being cold, it's not as cold as she would with Mrs. Matlock or anybody else. The changing of attitude begins when Dinkins came along, and Dinkins, I really want to say, is pretty much the heart and soul that keeps the friendship together, and especially in this film. And we automatically see that there's something special about Dinkins. We always see that there's a gift that he has, because he has a whole band of animals with him, foxes, birds, and he actually introduced them by their names. And one of the most famous scenes I actually remember is that Mary Lennox came to him and said, "That's a ridiculous name." And he said, "These are what the names they prefer to be called." And she said, "They didn't tell you that." And Dinkins' response said, there are ways to communicate that don't require words, something along those lines. And it was kind of an interesting character, because he can see what she went through. She can see that she's been through enough. And at first, she just pretty much rejected him. But after a while, as the days and after her searching for this garden, which she had actually heard about, but didn't know where it was, that's when she realized. That's when the friendship really started to blend in, especially with the servants. But she really was determined to find this garden. She heard about it. She knew it was secret, but she didn't know too much about the origin of the garden. And the origin of the garden is very unique in itself, because the garden in this film plays a very important role, and in terms of basically feeling love again. And this is one of the major things I love about this film, because as she searched for the garden, and as she found the garden, and keep in mind how they introduced this garden again, and this has only happened the most when they're about to cut the commercials. Again, this was a Hallmark Hall of Fame film, and this is a movie that when they went to commercials, there's only like one or two times that they didn't have like a scary cliffhanger cut. It happens when she opens the door, when she finds the secret garden, and you see this wind blowing. You don't know what she's opened the door. Did she open the door to a monster? Did she open the door to some kind of spirit that is attacking her? No, she opened the door to the garden, and it's like, wow, they really built this up to be a scary moment, but that was how they did it. And when you see this garden, which, by the way, I gotta say was beautiful. I actually even when it was like in total shambles, it still had a beauty that I actually really was mesmerized in. And I was actually wondering what Marilyn was going to do with the garden. Well, obviously, she wanted to take care of the garden, and she asked Dickens for help, and Dickens agreed to help her. And that's when the friendship and the bonding really started taking place. It really started to get interesting when she found out that she was not the only child in the house. She heard the moaning and the groaning, and she was like, where is this coming from? Is there a ghost? Nobody's talking about this. They're pretty much pretending that this other thing is this. And it wasn't until she actually did her own investigation that she found Collins. She found him just, you know, just basically in bed. And what was so unique about Collins, Master Collins, they call him, is that he too was angry. He too felt alone, and that was largely because of the incident that happened with his mother. In the movie, in the book, and even in the newer version, the mother had died. In this one, I believe she died by giving birth. There was an accident that happened. I think she fell off one of the branches, and that caused her to go to premature labor. She had died giving birth, and Collins, who survived but just barely, was never well, and he has pretty much been bedridden pretty much ever since. And because of the situation, because of what has happened, we had a situation where the father, because he's still grieving for the loss of his love, is neglecting his duties of being a father for his son Collins, and that was something that was heavily played in this movie, and get used to hearing the word neglect because it does play a very important part. They again, as usual, they butt heads because they pretty much got the same personality. Collins is used to being being waited on. He doesn't understand the word meaning of friendship. He doesn't understand that you can't force somebody to be his friend. But that's because of his upbringing as well. But as he too was introduced to the garden, his mother's garden, is when things started to really change course. He started to become more friendly towards Dinkins, and he became more friendly towards Mary, and the friendship commenced from there. And it was all because they had one goal, one bond, and that was the secret garden. Even the gardener who found out that these kids was in here pretty much revealed that he have helped Colin's mother fix the garden, and he will help them fix the garden again. So now the bonding continues. It's now started to strengthen up, and it really started to become clear right down towards not next to the end, but when Collins was trying to walk again, because he revealed that he can walk, but he just never tried, and he tried to walk. And at first, he went, he failed, and you can tell he's gotten frustrated. He actually gave up for a while, but once once Mary started talking to him and opening up to him, saying don't give up, he started doing it his own way, took his own time, and once he revealed he can actually do it completely, is when you actually was me and the class actually clapped because we know he went full lot. The climax in this movie is that he revealed to his father he can walk. They embrace each other. And pretty much the film, ended with them walking around the garden, exploring the garden again. And then it cut through them growing up, and we found out a lot of things. I'm not doing too much spoilers here because the film is a very old film. Collins died during the war. Mary Lennox and Dinkins, somebody playing that movie loud up there, have ended up getting engaged. They were said to be married. They actually fell in love, which was hinted a little bit in the movie when Collins asked, "Do you like Dinkins? It's okay if you like Dinkins, but I want you to like me." And Mary Lennox said, "I like you just the same, but different." And that's when you realize the feelings are not actually the same as for Dinkin. And that actually was in the conclusion where, yeah, their feelings for each other is much, much different. I enjoyed this film. I really did. I really did enjoy this film a lot. I liked the story. I liked the message. I'm not gonna go too much into the message here yet because I wanted to do it as the pros and cons of this movie and compare and contrast and what these films have in common. You pretty much where I'm gonna get with this anyway. But keep in mind, the message alone, the theme alone, was the main key. The story was the main key of this movie, and this is one of the few Hallmark films that I recommend to everybody. I recommend to daughters and mothers. I recommend it to family members to use this highly treat because the film is a very strong film. It's a very heartwarming film, and it's a very film that will keep you watching. This film does a great job of keeping you watching. If I have any complaints, and this is the only reason why it never got a 4-star rating for me, is actually two things. This film plays the scare card a little too much. It is not a scary film, but the scenes that they do, especially when it was cut into commercials, was pretty much like, what the hell's going on? What's happening? From the beginning when the cat jumped off, we didn't know if that cat just killed him. We were kids. We didn't know what the hell was going on. We didn't know what film we was watching, to hearing the moaning sounds of it's just a ghost, to the big reveal of the garden when you see the wind and all those leaves blowing in a face, to her finding out who Dinkin is and how Dinkin actually lowered the sheets and you see it and they freeze it from there. They played the scare card a lot in this film, and I think a lot of people who did not like that too much because they especially those who didn't know it was based on a novel or a serial, depending on what time this film appeared, because I know it was short stories and they made it into a novel. It was a very huge success. People who didn't know that about the book really came in blind as to what's going on, because I came in this film and I'm like, what am I actually watching? What am I doing? I know I'm following this character. I know I'm following Mary Lennox. I know she's the main focus, but why did they have to scare us so much? It's just really crazy. And again, a lot of people liked it that way. I like that people prefer to get scared that way. It keeps the suspense, keeps them want to watch more. My main gist though was that ending, and I tell you why. If they would have ended with the kids and Colin's dad and Colin's walking around the garden, I probably would have been okay with it. I didn't consider it to be a strong ending, especially how the story had began and how the story was so well strung in the middle. It wasn't the greatest ending, but it was satisfactory in my part. When they went back to them as an adult, it became exhibition. Pure exhibition, which was I did not care for at all. I did not care for any of the stuff because, frankly, we never spent any time. They never really flashed back and forth. Once they flashed backwards back to her when she was a child, they stayed that way throughout almost the whole film, and only then, with the last 5 minutes, you flash back to her and you realize, okay, this is Mary Lennox, but now the expedition explaining what happened. Like again, Dinkins down the war, and they explained it in a way that that was like reading a book, which I didn't really care for. We found out that Colin was injured, but he survived, and he basically said to Mary, you think that a little bit of shrapnel was actually going to stop me? And he proposed to her, and it was like, okay, well, I guess this is how they're going to end it. And it ended just like that, and then I didn't really care. I didn't really care for it. But everything else I actually did enjoy. I actually love. This is a 3.5-star film. It is definitely a classic, and a lot of people to this day still talk about this Secret Garden, the Hallmark Secret Garden. They have made a lot of Secret Garden films over the years, but the Hallmark version and the other version that I'm going to talk to right about now is always the one that stands out the most. And speaking of the Warner Brothers version, pretty much what I said about this film is pretty much the same in theme, but they've done it differently. This one kept some of the elements of the book. Mary Lennox is introduced very quickly. There is no flashing into where she was a grown-up. It stayed within the time period as the story has been told. We are introduced to her, and we are quickly introduced to her as her life is not fun. She's being neglected. She's having fights with her servants, even though they're trying to do their best to cater to her. But she's just not very happy, and that's largely because, again, the family factor is she's not loved by family, and it's shown pretty much more in this film than I actually give it credit for. And one of the scenes that actually sticks out for me the most about this Secret Garden is the fact that the Secret Garden in this one, when I say she wasn't loved, um, the fact is that when Master Collins, the grown up, was looking for her picture, it was a very good moment of how bitter she was, because when you heard in her voice that yeah, that's she's been paying because of that, and he couldn't find anything. The words, my mom never bothered to think it wasn't necessary to take a picture of me. She didn't bother to take pictures of me, and she said it in such a cold manner. It really explains the life that she was going through and what uh, and how lonely she was, and that's why, to me, the ending in this film was more acceptable because she finally had friends, she had family that she can actually call on. In this film, the Mr. Collins, the kid, is actually her cousin, and she's actually the cousin in the book, which I'm actually glad. The film isn't as scary as I thought it would be, because when I saw this film, I said, okay, they're gonna keep the scary elements, and they actually didn't do that. They didn't need to do that, which I'm kind of happy. They actually told a story. Maggie Smith, I think this is like the second film. I'm not too sure if I was introduced to her through this film. I'm pretty sure it was Six Act, but I considered Maggie Smith's performance in this movie phenomenal. She was actually nominated for a lot of awards for her as playing Mrs. Matlock, and her Mrs. Matlock is a very overprotected servant. She loves Master Collins as if she was her own son, and she really does her best. She's very stern, she's very strict, but there's no question that as much as you people want to say, I want to hate her for what she's doing, but I can't, because I understand where she's coming from, because she's very protective to the point where she was willing during the last act of the film, she actually tried to separate Mary Lennox from Colin, because she felt that Mary Lennox was making her sick. That's how very protective she was of him, and it really does show. This hard performance was spot on. I actually really did enjoy the performance, but in this situation, it wasn't the plague that killed Mary Lennox's parents. In this movie, it was an earthquake. In the most weirdest scenarios, it was never shown, but you see the events, because they had this big bazaar, they had this big festivities, and the earthquake basically killed a lot of people, including her parents. She survived, but she ended up living with her uncle, which the mansion was beautifully done. I actually thought the scenery was beautifully done, and from there we were following her, and again we met from a younger Martha. Very, very young, almost about a few years older than Mary Lennox, because Mary Lennox in this movie was actually 10. I believe the Martha was actually 13 in this one, but she was one of the big servants, and you really sense that she was trying to help, and she did eventually try to help, but it was actually more genuine. The film really did have a lot of shockers in this film, but it was more tame than the Hallmark version. There was no major scare factor, and the film really did focus a lot on the relationship of Dinkins. Dinkins was not portrayed the same way as Hallmark was, and I'll get to that in my compare and contrast. But needless to say, he was more of what you expect from a normal boy would be. He did have the animals, but he didn't flaunt it. And for the most part, he again was one of the centerpieces of this trio. And these child actors who played him, by the way, was also great in this movie. When I saw this film, I gave this film 4 stars, and I'm still keeping the 4 stars. Are there flaws in this film? Very little. It's not something I actually will go on to complain. Exception of, again, the ending and how that ending happened. Many people didn't like it because it just ended and everything is all happy and all good. I didn't have a problem with this. Like I said, my major problem was they dragged out the ending from the Hallmark version, and again, I'll speak to that about which one I felt was better in the second half. But for me, I thought it ended just the way it is, perfect. It just ended from the way it is for her, pretty much saying that the garden was never closed again, because that was one of the main theme. I actually liked it how when Collins and her father stood face to face, one of the most memorable moments. I actually almost teared up for this because they was playing, hide and seek in the garden, and a dream on Omen, because they did some kind of ritual saying bring her, pleading for the great angels to bring Collins' father back to him, and he had the most dream about where he had a dream of his wife, and that dream shook him to the point where he actually went back to his house. He realized his son was not in his bed. He realized that Marion Lennox was not in the room that he was locked into. And then Martha said perhaps they're in the garden, and that's when he ran right down there, and he sees his son walking. He sees his son having fun. He's not sick, and he's just shocked. He's just not. He don't know what to say. And one of the most touching moments is you can see that he's feeling, and he knows it ain't Dinkins, it ain't Marion Lennox, and he's feeling the face. He's feeling a lot of he's feeling the features, and he realized, wait, this could be, and he took off the mask, and then you see Collins and his father together, and it was actually very touching, especially how the music, which by the way I absolutely love the soundtrack. I had the soundtrack. It's not, I don't think it's still in print anymore. It's one of those things that if it is in print, you're going to have to get it through iTunes, I believe, but it's not in print anymore, which is too bad, because I actually liked it, the score of this theme, of this music, of the movie. It was very, very good. It's a very memorable score. It definitely fits what's going on here in that movie. And when Marilyn sees the bonding of father and son, she basically ran out the garden. And you hear, she said, nobody wants me, and she just ran out. She was crying. There was a reason, and besides the fact of the garden, and besides the fact that she may face a situation where, now they're back, now the father's back together, the son's back together. Where did that leave her? Will she be alone? Will she be neglected again? And it wasn't until Master Collins, the father, kneeled down to her and talked to her, and why you all by yourself, and that talk, it wasn't wanted. And again, I'm going to be talking about that again in the second half, but that again explains everything. We didn't even have to go through the whole conversation. It explains everything. And Father assured her, you brought us back to life. Don't worry. The place is not going to be closed down again. And pretty much that assured her that all's good. And another scene was when Matlock saw Master Collins walking for the very first time, and she was in tears. And to me, that's a far better ending than the Hallmark version. But I'll get back to that situation. I have no complaints with that film. I saw this film. This film didn't do well in the box office, as I pretty much expected. The film, I don't even think it broke 10 million. But I don't think the Warner Brothers actually expected it to break that much. This was actually the last Secret Garden film that actually made it theaters. I know they made a sequel to the Hallmark version. I've seen bits of it. I'm not going to do a review on it until I actually see the whole thing. But I'm going to tell you right now, from what I saw, and it was the last third of the film, I was not impressed. So just keep that in mind. Don't be shocked if I give this a disappointing review. The title is Back to Secret Garden. It was made for TV. I'm aware of it. I'm aware of the existence, but I kind of wish I didn't. I'm being honest, guys. I was not really impressed with what I saw with that. But in terms of this movie, it's very well written. It stays faithful as it possibly can to the original material of the novel. And besides a few changes here and there, I really thought they did a magnificent job. The costume designs, perfect. The pacing, which I thought would be the main issue of this film, was not the main issue of this film. Is actually pacing was surprisingly well done for a film like this. It really was. The child actors who played in this film. I know one of them became a musician. Another one was actually had other films. He was actually in more films than not. I don't know if he was in Mrs. Delphi or not. I know I've seen the kid in two other films before, but he was fantastic here. Oh yeah, that kid who played Master Collins was in Hook. He was in that movie. He played the Peter Pan's son. So seeing him in this film, I was like, oh, I know who this is. He's pretty good. But the child actors was, I had no complaint. They did what they was supposed to do, and they gave not only 100% to me, they gave 200%. Again, I can't stress more. Maggie Smith had been nominated for an award. It was nominated for a lot of awards, despite the fact that this film didn't do well in the box office. Once it came on video, people started to really sink their teeth into this film. It had high praises off the bat. I'm aware of the controversy. Everybody keep on saying, but what about that? Some of the stuff that was deemed controversial. Look, I'm aware of the brief nudity in the beginning of the film. A lot of people have said should have been PG for that, but it was not. The camera, it was not within like what 3 seconds, and it didn't really focus on that too much. The innuendo with the incest, I'm aware that they played into that. I'm aware that Colin was in love with his cousin, but they never went too far in that situation. In fact, that was, if you want to say, my only beef between that is in the scene. And I think you guys know what it is. Collins wanted to take Mary Lennox and Dickens' picture together, and they was facing each other. And you saw the looks on each other's eyes, and Dinkins saw the looks, and you know he was jealous of that. That showed, he said, hey, 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 and he was really very upset. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be some first argument, and we're going to see those two talking out, but they never went there again. They never addressed that situation, never addressed Dinkins, Collins' jealousy towards Dinkins, or the fact that he was in love with Mary. And to me, I wish they should have edited that out. I actually did, because if you're not going to go any further in the details, leave it alone completely. But they didn't edit it out, but it didn't hurt the film either, so that's fine. But to me, yeah, I'm aware of it. To me, it's just something that's there. It's not. It didn't ruin the film for me, and to me, they never really went beyond what they have. Do I agree that this film should have been G? Because the film was rated G when it came out? No, I actually don't. There was enough to warrant it a PG. How I got through that, I don't know. But like I said, I'll talk about that a little later. I know why the Hallmark version was rated PG. There was no escaping that. This one, you can make a debate, but to me, if I was the person to bring this board, I probably would have rated PG, partially for the partial nudity, but most of the 10-minute images involving the dialogue between the kids and the adults, especially with one scene where I think it caught everybody by surprise. Caught me by surprise, caught the people who was watching it with me by surprise, and that was a scene where Mrs. Matlock actually found out that Mary Lennox had found out about Collins, and she blamed Martha for it, and she smacked her in the face. And I felt that. I'm like, oh, I felt that. So I thought, okay, that should have gotten definitely enough for a PG right there. But they never really went too far on that after that. It was a kind of a... It was kind of, I tell you, if you've seen that scene, you was like, you will be backing up a little bit, because that, you felt it. It went out of the screen and it hit you. But to me, it's one of those things that I'm not going to make a too big deal of it. It was rated G, but you know what? It didn't deter me from not watching a film. Just because something's rated G doesn't mean it's going to be bad or it's going to be childish. This is not a, I don't consider this as a children's film, but a family film. It's a very good family film for the whole family. I would say parental guidance suggested. Just be mindful. There are some scenes that will put the questions, especially with your little ones. But to top it all off, I'll still recommend it for anybody of all ages. That is it. I already said it for the Hallmark version, 3.5. For the Warner Brothers version, 4 stars. But just because I gave those guys different stars, just because I gave these 2 movies different stars, doesn't mean that that one is better than the other. Now I'll get to that in the second half, but for now, and I'm doing this like the first time because I normally don't talk about two movies at the same time, but being that it is the Christmas week, being that it is the holiday season, I wanted to talk about this movie, this particular film, and I wanted to do a compare and contrast because this is a lot. This film really means a lot to me. Both films does because it really did speak to me. And so what I'm gonna do like a little break. I'm probably gonna be putting some notable mentions for those who are my fellow colleagues at Matic Expression. I'm going to put some special shout outs for you guys via by images. And if you guys see those names up there, please, by all means, check out their work at maticexpression.com. These guys are great. Give you the support, or check them out on YouTube. I'll leave a link below so you guys can go and see for yourself and see all the amazing work they have done. And after those honorable mentions are done, I'll conclude with my compare and contrast. But until then, guys, enjoy the honorable mentions. Hey guys, while we're on this break from Flashback Review, I might as well talk about the site that I've been working with now going on 3 years, and that is maticexpression.com. Some of you guys notice in most of my videos that at the end of the video you see the Matic Expression symbol. Well, that's because for a while now I've been working with Matic Expression in terms of posting my my blogs as well as my videos on that site. And I gotta say, I don't regret the day that goes by where I love posting at that site. MaticExpression.com is a very friendly, very active website for bloggers and video makers alike. And it's not just restrained to just one category of video blogging. Anyone who has an opinion, anyone who has an original story, anyone who has a fanfic, or anyone who is a reviewer, a let's player, or even just someone who likes to vlog from time to time is welcome at Matic Expression. It's very simple. You just go to Matic Expression, open up an account, which is very simple. It's 1, 2, 3, and boom, you're automatic a member. There is no one high or no one low. Everyone who wants to share their views and opinions is always free and welcome to do so. We have a lot of different personalities here and a lot of different videos and blogs that you can actually read and select. And when I say there's a lot of different things you can actually look at, I do mean a lot of things. If you're a person who likes politics, person who likes fanfic or like to write about fanfic, if you like poetry and like to write poetry, if you like to talk about original content, share your own stories, or just a person who likes to show a let's play or like to do a review of any kind, whether it's sports, movies, TV shows, this is the place for you. Matic Expression is a place where everyone can express themselves and bring out their opinion as well as show their creativity to all. This is a friendly community, a trophy community, and a community that once you go there, whether you just by blogging or video, or just simply going there to check out the latest blog or reviews of your favorite reviewers or producers, this is the place to go. There are some faces that you may actually already been familiar with, either by YouTube, or even thatguywiththeglasses.com. Faces such as the Fanfic Critic, Movie Man 12, Y-Boy, Cutting Chimp, Racinator, hope I'm saying your name right, pal. Liz, also known as Matic Expression as the Positive Troll, the Wordsmith, a great poet in her own right, the Big Black Hat Man. The list goes on and on. There's a whole bunch of personalities that actually has been on YouTube at one point or has been on other sites that have moved on to here. So as I can see right here, just by me explaining this, you have something. They all have something to offer, and you may have something to offer as well. Just simply put, check out MaticExpression.com. You may want to become part of Matic Expression.com and share your thoughts and views. We're a friendly community, and you will always be welcome. So for any information, I will leave the link down below, and you guys can check it out for yourself. Give it a try. You never know. You may find some place to voice your own opinion and express yourself. Okay, welcome back to part two of our Secret Garden flashback review. And I'm just going to get right straight to it. These are the two films that hit me the most. So these are the two films that, in terms of what I've been dealing with, personally with my family, this film spoke volumes to me. It's one of the most films that I will not have a problem if this film is shown on TV or someone has it on DVD or even on YouTube for that matter. I would not hesitate to sit down and simply watch this film. It is that powerful. It is a wonderful, beautiful films, and to me, both films, even though they were done in a different style and taken stuff from the book while leaving stuff out, the theme of these movies still remain the same. I'll get to the theme in a second, and then why this film has struck a chord with me, as well as a lot of people who have seen this film. But I want to get to the comparison here because many people did ask me, what movie did I like better? Did I like the Hallmark version or did I like the Warner Brothers version? And it was a very tough call because even though I've given the Secret Garden movie that came out in theaters, the Warner Brothers version, 4 stars, it didn't mean that I actually thought that the Hallmark version was less superior than the film that had a bit of bigger budget. In fact, if you really look at it, made-for-TV movies, in terms of how I see films, are such a different scale. They don't have the same budget as these major motion pictures. In fact, made-for-TV movies, if you look at the reviews for most of these TV movies, they go down a lot harder than the movies that has actually been released in theaters. It is very hard to get an overwhelming review for a made-for-TV movie. I think there's only been a few that actually have achieved that, and that was Anne Frank, the latest version on TV. It was a 2-part made-for-TV special, and it was a very powerful, well-done, well-written story. They really done a great job with that. And you also have this, which actually has gotten huge reviews on the Hallmark Secret Garden, despite the fact that most critics pretty much said that the film's scary element really kept it from getting even better review. And that's something that a lot of critics have said about the Hallmark version. Let me first go on, because I'm going to start doing it with the characters and my feeling, and then you get my initial feeling towards these characters. I might as well start off with Mary Lennox, the two actresses who played that. Both child actresses, again, was phenomenal. Both of them were great performances portraying this character, which in the book, they really did capture what this character was, what she was going through. And they really did a good job in their own way of showing the frustration and then leading to becoming more kind to each other, as kind to to themselves as well as kind to their friends, and seeing how they evolve from there. So there's no complaints about the acting here. I think everybody, both girls, have done a tremendous job. If you want me to be honest, I have to say I will have to go with the Hallmark version for a lot of reasons, and I say this. Not to take any disrespect from the girl, because the girl who did it from the World was phenomenal, and she's went on to have a great career. But I have to be honest with you, I thought that the Mary Lennox from the other version really was more dynamic in terms of revealing the frustration. And the reason is because once the garden came around, instantly Mary Lennox have changed. From the Warner Brothers version, where this one, it was a slow process. Keep in mind, once she met Dinkins, and see that Dinkins was just the opposite, the same as her in terms of them button heads and actually, not taking lip from each other. You can tell that had that cold shoulder about her. But once the story started manifesting, that you can tell that she had completely changed, and she admit that she was like that, and because she did not know love. And I think that how we're showing certain things that she has done in the Hallmark version really solidifies just how much in pain she was. I'll give you a perfect example of this. As when she started going into the rooms, she started touching familiar things that is noticeable for mother, and she flashed back on how she wanted to be with her mother, but her mother just flew away, just fling away as nothing, as not even acknowledging her existence. And you can tell that she was holding that in. She was holding in a lot more than what she needed to do, and she didn't know who to talk to. She didn't know how to go. You didn't quite get that. You saw the anger, you saw the frustration, you saw a lot with the Waller Brothers version, but to me it was more minute in terms of how she went forward, especially with her friends. It wasn't until pretty much at the end where, again, brilliant scene when she saw the father and the son bonding, that when she was worried, she was scared that she was going to be alone again, and she didn't want that to happen. But to me, that was a very strong scene. But to me, seeing Mary Lennox go into the room and exploring really, to me, showed more merit, because you can tell that there are a lot of pain going into that girl's soul, and just seeing her touch these stuff, seeing her expression, you know that she did not have it easy growing up there. She barely had a childhood, and that in the lifestyle she was growing up in, and I think that one did a better job. But keep in mind, I thought both girls was great. Let's go to Dinkins. Again, both actors did a great job. I like to think Dinkins in Hallmark Hall of Fame. That's what they call it. But the Hallmark movie and the Warner Brothers movies, both really likable characters. Both really portrayed the characters very, very well. But gun to my head, I have to give it to the Warner Brothers for one reason. In the Warner Brothers version, I was more convinced that Dinkins was a normal kid. He was friends. He was likable. There was nothing mystery about him. Yeah, he had a lot of animals, but it wasn't like he was psychic. They made Dinkins in the Hallmark version psychic. He knows things before anybody else knows, which I still scratch my head in that situation. And it wasn't just that scene. It was just a scene where that made me question this guy a little bit. What do you mean by that? Is when Dickens said, "I'm glad you're my friends. We'll always be friends." And he looked at him. He said, "We'll be parted, you and I, but our memories will always keep us friends." And it was like, what kind of response is that? I mean, he asked you a simple question, man. Just say yes or no. What's with these riddles? And he's like, what did he mean that we be parted? I'm like, yeah, what do you mean that you parted? And Mary like said, thinking know things that nobody else knows. No, that's not an excuse, man. Ask the guy the question. I mean, he just disappeared. That was always bothering me. And then, of course, we found out that he seen through the future that he was going to go to war and die, which, okay, whatever. But that was always been a hit to me, that they made Dickens not as normal as I actually want him to be. Still great performance though. I'm not knocking that as well. I told you, both child actors have done a great job portraying Dickens, but I felt that the one from Warner Brothers was more human than the one from Hallmark. I'm just saying. Martha character. Martha character is very interesting because like I said, the Martha character from the Hallmark version was a lot older than the one from the WB's version, and again, both of them played well. But I gotta tell you, I was more intrigued by the one in the Warner Brothers for a lot of reasons, and one, she was not as old as Mary Lennox was, and she bonded more with Mary Lennox than I think the other one has. It's kind of like one of those ifs and don'ts. But I did give credit where credit is due. She tried, but I felt that by youth-wise, I thought the Mary Lennox from Warner Brothers was a much better fit to me, much better fit for her. So I give it to that on the grounds that I felt that it was, the connection seems more relatable because of her preteen, because of her preteen, and she was actually more reaching towards Marilyn X than the other one was. Both great performances, no argument of that. Matlock. Oh my God. Again, Maggie Smith won a lot of awards for this film. I really did. I loved her in this movie. She really did show me a lot in this movie. But I'm gonna have to give it to the Hallmark version in terms of Matlock for the Mrs. Matlock for one reason. And this is not against Maggie Smith. I really respect her acting ability. And I'm not even talking about the Harry Potter, but when she became Harry Potter. I know a lot of people who haven't seen her other work will only remember her as Mrs. McGonagall from the Harry Potter series. I'm telling you right now, if that's the only thing you're going to remember her, you obviously need to go and look at her resume and start renting out some movies starring her, and you understand why. She is a phenomenal actress. I'm not taking anything away from her on this situation. But I actually liked the Hallmark Matlock more better. The simple fact is that she has learned to grow and actually respect Mary Lennox. She realized she wasn't as bad, and to see that. And once it was revealed that Mary Lennox had found out about it, she didn't overreact. She said, "Okay, it happened. I'm kind of glad it happened. It's out the door," and she began to realize it was actually a good thing for Master Collins to have a friend her own age to associate with, and she actually he went to her to calm him down, and it actually worked. And since then, you can see that okay, she has really warmed up to this girl, and for good reasons. And it was really shown more when it was revealed that it was Mrs. Matlock that wrote to her. She wrote with such compassion about the death of Dinkins, and I actually thought that actually makes sense because she watched them grow up. She had a lot of love for Dinkins, and eventually she grew to grow to love Mary Lennox. I didn't get that from Maggie Smith. Nothing against that, nothing against what they did, but she was way overprotected to the point where she was actually blind to see that this was actually helping Collins, not hurting him. She actually thought that she never gave the girl a chance. She only saw what she wanted to see and not what was actually happening in front of her, and why Mary Lennox and Colin was bonding together. She was really blind for that, and it was her overprotection that was blinding her for it. And again, I'm not a performance phenomenal. She deserved the award she got, but for me, I give it to the Hallmark Hall of Fame. It edged out Maggie Smith on that, but the simple fact is the actress who played that was more realistic, more reasonable, and more open-minded to the fact that, okay, she has been neglected, she has been abused, she doesn't really know how to express herself properly, and once she has seen things have changed, she had changed towards her. That was a good thing. Let's go to the Collins. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm giving it to Hallmark 100%. Again, both actors did a phenomenal job presenting this character. I thought both actors did a great job in their own way. But I give it to Hallmark for another reason. And again, it was Collins coming to terms, trying to rehabilitate himself for being confined in a wheelchair. And he was more realistic in terms of what he was going through with his father and everything else, and learning to respect people, not trying to force them to like them. And he came around to that situation. It was very slow, but like I said, I didn't expect that to be as overnight as does the other one. Again, these guys did a great job. These two actors did a magnificent job in presenting Master Collins. The only thing is about the one in the Warner Brothers, it was quick. It was fast. He started walking again, and that was pretty much it. We didn't see him, rehabilitate as much as we saw in the Hallmark version. The Hallmark version, you saw him struggle. When he tried to walk on his own, he fell, and it depresses him. He was very sad. He was very miserable. It took Mary Lennox to remind him not to give up, and he did it his own way. And he promised his mother, "I'm gonna try. I'm gonna keep trying." You know, when he saw the picture of his mother, he said, "I'm gonna keep trying until I can do it again." And when he showed the big reveal that he can actually walk on his own, it was we really was happy for him. We really was grateful for him. But again, it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen fast. And keep in mind, the Hallmark version and the Warner Brothers version are pretty much the same time length. They're pretty much almost 2 hours. But I found within those lengths, I thought that Hallmark, with the commercials and everything else, did a far much better job in seeing and showing Collins what he was when we first met him to what he became at the end of this film. And that, to me, is a very important. It's just as important than showing the character, showing his struggles. Okay, he's walking again. Next thing you know, everything is all fine and dandy. Again, not taking anything away from the actor. This guy's a good actor. That kid, I wish he was in more movies. I don't know what he's doing now. I haven't checked his resume, but I know the last film I saw of him being in there was Hook. And but for the most part, both actors did a great job. I just felt the presentation of these characters was done better in the Hallmark version. Now let's talk about the overall garden itself. This is a tough one. Again, I think the garden itself, I'm gonna give again to the Hallmark version. I know people said you're giving a lot to the Hallmark version. There's a reason. The Hallmark version, in terms of their garden itself, versus the Hallmark version in the Warner Brothers, goes like this. You felt the garden being neglected. You felt more work being done to that garden than anything else. When I saw the Secret Garden in the WB, even though the Warner Brothers showed the neglect garden, it also showed that the garden wasn't that far off neglected, because overnight, almost seemingly, the garden just bust to life. Where in the Hallmark version, and this is something very important, they had to work on it steadily. Nothing was like, you didn't see it just bust into this beautiful, elaborate garden. In fact, it was pretty much, it was a work in progress, and it remained a work in progress right up to the end of the film. Even Dinkins said, will this garden ever see this bloom again? And Dinkins said, what was neglected in years cannot be done in weeks, which I actually thought was a good scene, saying that they still got a lot of work to do. In the movie version, even though you saw the neglect, you saw the unwantedness of the garden, you really didn't felt that they didn't do much hard work, because as the film go on, it seemed like, well, how many months, how many weeks has passed? The garden just bloomed up just like nothing. Now it has like a nice little pond. In the end of the film, as I always said, okay, they really made this into a very special garden, but I felt the other one was even more special because it wasn't this big, giant garden. It was actually kind of small when you saw the Hallmark version, but it was a small garden that they worked on, and it had more significant value because you can actually felt them working on it. You actually felt them trying to take care of it. And when other people came to help to take care of it, then you start to see the garden even spread out even more and bloom even more beautiful. So I felt, for that reason, I felt the garden from the Hallmark version still has more personal values to me than the garden from the Warner Brothers version. The overall story, I will say this: it will be given towards the Warner Brothers version for a lot of reasons. The overall story was more well fleshed out. And that's largely because, yeah, it is a bigger budget. It is a much bigger budget than the Hallmark version. But the most importantly is I think they stayed a lot more truer to the book than I think they expected. Again, what ruined, well, didn't ruin it, but what really messed up this film from getting the 4 stars was that ending. Had they just left that ending out, I think it would have probably been fine. But like I said, a lot of expedition ruined the ending. A lot of stuff that I didn't need to know, I didn't really care for. To me, the film pretty much ended with Dickens' father, Mary Lennox, and them actually walking along toward the garden. In this one, like I said, that ending where Mary Lennox was crying because she was worried that she would be neglected again, had more weight, and that pretty much sealed the deal for me in terms of this being a better story, because that did have more weight than the ending at the Hallmark did. And seeing, Colin's dad, Collins, Mary Lennox, Dinkins, who had a horse out of nowhere. Yeah, that always started to concern me. I said, where did this horse came from? But this is Dinkins. We got to have some era of magic to him. But I felt that was more of a heartwarming ending, and to me the story was just a well fleshed out story. But again, that's not knocking the Hallmark version. The Hallmark Thornton story was great, but I felt that this one was a little bit more better. For the simple fact is, it didn't need to scare me to appreciate it. That was another thing. Again, the Hallmark version, it had some scary moments that it didn't need to put in there. I was kind of surprised at how scary this film was. And when I saw it again, I said, yeah, this film really did push the bar in terms of scaring people before heading to a commercial. Surprisingly enough, that's a lot of reason why people actually like the Hallmark version better. A lot of people actually like those scare factors. A lot of people talk about the scare factors a lot. If you go on YouTube, while YouTube still has some of those things up, and you look at the comment section, they'll tell you, like, this film did scare me when I was a little kid. I mean, they'll tell you, because there are some bits and pieces. Like, somebody will have the ending, not the whole film, but just the ending. And you can see somebody make comments on that. And it's a justifiable comment, because it was a scary feeling, especially if you've never heard of the book before. You're like, what am I watching? But when you realize what you was watching, and what you realize what they were trying to say, you room to appreciate and love the film for it. And let me just go right to the theme. And this is not a compare and contrast, because both films, to me, it's a tie between those, because both films kept the theme strong, kept the theme relatable. There are a lot of movies out there that does the following things, and people who go watch these films pretty much also aware of what they're getting into. Then people go to watch films just to be entertained. They don't want to be educated. They don't want none of that, boring, talk down to me kind of stuff. They just want to see entertainment. Some people just would prefer that less dialogue, more action, more explosions. That's what you come there to see, and you know what? That's fine. It's not a problem. There are films like that is designed just for that. If you take this film seriously, then that's just on you. You should have known what you got into. There are films that meant to be taken seriously. There's a film that there's gonna be a hard message, and this is what you're getting into. You may have a few funny moments, but that's probably much accidental, more so than is actually done on purpose. This film is designed to educate you, to send a message, and how that message is presented, it will be pretty much from between a good film or a bad film. But you better believe you're not going into a film, especially an art house movie, to see explosions. You're there for a different reason, and most of the audiences who go there is for a different reason. And then there's movies that educate you, that strikes a chord with you, whether they mean to or not. Films that have a strong messages, films that bring out that message in a different way, so that it doesn't feel like they're over preaching, and does it in a way that just follows a character from beginning to end. The Secret Garden have done this. Both versions have done this, and they've done it perfectly. And that is bringing up an issue that, if you look at it very carefully, we're still dealing with today, and that is neglect. This is one of the films that struck me the most. And speaking for a person who did not have the best of childhoods, this film had made a connection towards me. The actors presented that perfectly. The people who directed this film presented it perfectly. And that is, this film is basically about neglect. No secret about that. If you look at this film, what was Mary Lennox's major situation? She was neglected by her family. Her family didn't want her. She wasn't wanted by family. They ignored her. They let her servants take care of her. So she never got that love and attention that a child should have when growing up with her parents. Collins does the same thing. He was neglected. Her mother died giving birth to him. As a result, her father is grieving to the point where he is neglecting his duties to be a father towards him. He's leaving the countryside. He's going as far away as possible. And when he does see his son, it's through when he's sleeping. He takes a look at him and he just stares at him and he leaves and he goes back. He can't bear to be with his son because he can't bear to see his son suffer. Whether he intentionally means to do that or not is still neglect. And as a result, it affected Colin in a way where he didn't feel wanted. He felt angry, felt mean. He felt sorry for himself. And the secret garden itself is a sign of neglect. Why? Because once that accident happened, once Colin's wife, the older Colin's wife, had died, he did not want to see the garden again. He wanted to lock it up and forget about it because it brought back such memories that was just too much for him to bear. So everything tied into that one theme. Marilyn Lennox saw the garden. She saw how neglected it was, but she also saw the beauty of it, and she took it upon herself that she will take care of it. Colin the same way. This garden will make me well. I will take care of it. It's my mother's garden. And as the situation is, they have learned to care for something that they themselves knew was being neglected themselves, and that's the kind of bond that has happened. Even Dinkins, his bond became more stronger with Mary Lennox and Collins, and it all had to do with a common goal: taking care of a forgotten, neglected garden. And that was one of the strongest themes that I think a movie ever have done. And I've seen a lot of films over the years, and I think a lot of films do a good job, and some films don't do a good job. This one did a perfect job of showing something without actually having to over-preach it. We already know from the beginning what was going on, and we already know why Mary Lennox, Collins, and Dinkins took it upon himself to care for this garden, and he really cared for this garden, and they learned to care for each other because they was caring for this garden. And that was the thing that really stuck with me even to this day. It's one of the films why I consider this a classic that will never die. And to me, I kind of wished that the Warner Brothers film did well in the box office, because I think this is the kind of film that should be seen. It should be educated, because this is a well-educated film that sends its message without actually, saying this film is about neglect. This is what you should do because he's there to neglect. No, they show it to you, and the actors have played it out in their own way. And even though this is two different versions, they said some changes here and there, that theme had not changed, and it really resonated right onto the screen. And that's the thing that hit home with me with this film. This is one of the reasons why I consider it to be one of the ones that got it right. One of the major complaints that a lot of people have with children's films, even with family films, is that their theme, they don't know how to present an educational theme correctly. That is, they want to talk down to kids like they're stupid. They want to talk down to them like they don't know any sense, and they add crude jokes just to keep their attention span. The Secret Garden doesn't do that. The Secret Garden tells a simple story, and that story alone is what's keeping the attention span of a lot of people. Like I said, the only flaw I had with the Secret Garden Hallmark version is that they had a lot of scare factors into this. But again, if you ask a lot of people, they don't mind that. They actually enjoy it more, and they'll tell you that the story was more intriguing than anything else. They really wanted to talk about the story. They really wanted to talk about. They really wanted to see where this goes, and that is why these two films are such great classic films. It's also one of the reasons why they actually decided to make a sequel, not based on the WB, but also based on the Hallmark version, Back to the Secret Garden. And again, I'm not a very big fan of it, but then again, I can't really give a full judgment until I see the film. But I can understand why they will make a sequel over that Hallmark film, because that Hallmark film still has sustained power. To this day, if you watch it, this film came out, I believe, 1985, 86. The date will be on top of the video by the time this video is over, I'm pretty sure. But that film, to this day, still has more staying power than most of the TV made-for-TV movies, or most of the movies that came out in the 80s combined. That's how strong this film is. You can still get this film on DVD. If you order it from Barnes & Nobles, say I want the Secret Garden Hallmark version, and put an order in the next 4 days, you will have that movie. That's how strong this movie is. That's how much in demand this movie is. And the same goes with the Warner Brothers version. This is one of their better family classic films because it doesn't talk down to people. It brings up a very, very touchy subject about neglect, and it does it in a way where they don't constantly throw it down your throat, but have the actors act it out. You know, just by seeing Marilyn Lennox from the very beginning, she has not had a good life. She did not have a good childhood, and that's largely because her family didn't want her. And that alone is shown in brilliantly from those two actors who have done that. I don't want to keep repeating myself here, but I think it's very important to understand that if you're a fan of either the Warner Brothers version that came out in the 1990s or the 1986, I believe that's what the year it came out, made for TV Hallmark version, that's fine. If you're a fan of both, that's even great. But don't forget there's a theme behind it. And if you really see that theme, you understand why it struck a chord with a lot of people, because at one point or another, especially with me, I will say, yeah, this is what I felt like at times when I'm at home with my family. This is something that I know someone else is going through a lot worse than what I am. And this film presented that very, very well. I really am. I'm really proud of the people who have done these two films. I'm really happy these two films exist. And again, for a holiday film, it doesn't have to be a holiday film. It could be any day, any given day of the week, any month that you want to sit down and watch a film. But I always say this: if you're going to watch any family film that has a good, strong message to it, without having to be preached to it all the time, you have to check out those two films. Those are the two films I recommend to everybody to watch at least once. Give both sides a try, and I guarantee you will not be disappointed. This is how good the film is. And with that, I'll leave you guys with this. I hope everybody out there have a very, very happy and safe Christmas. My family, of course, you see me with the suit here because I'm actually recording this on Christmas Day. At least, well, now is one day after Christmas Day because it's actually, I'm just looking at the time, it's 12:34, which I've recorded this a long time. But I hope everybody's having a great, great holiday with loved ones. And to me, when it came to loved ones with me, this was more of a, it has a more stronger meaning more than ever because one, my sister went through a lot and she has fight it through. And two, when I was at the family gathering, a lot of familiar faces was not there, and they had passed on, of course, but they were definitely missed, and it's a reminder to me. That's why I don't celebrate Christmas or the holidays with families as I used to, because it's not about the gifts, it's not about the about what present that somebody gives me. It's more about being with family. And this was pretty much, it was a small group, but it was pretty much a great, it was probably one of the best ones yet, because we bonded a lot more than we ever have did before. And that's because I think everybody realized that life is too short, and you need to be with the loved ones and let them know how much you care for them and love them. And that's what some of the things I made it my effort. In fact, during before Christmas, I made it very clear what I was very thankful for, my family and my freedom. And I think a lot of people took that to heart, what I mean by that. Again, I hope everybody's having that safe, happy Christmas. I hope everyone, especially the young ones who are looking at this flashback review, and I know a lot of people are very mixed with how I do things, but I try to be very sincere and honest with what I say in my videos. And I want to say this for everyone, the young ones. Know that Christmas, I know it's been commercialized to death over the past decade now, but understand the theme of Christmas has never changed. It's about being with family, about appreciating the small things they do for you, and not looking for those big gigantic things that has happened a few years ago. And I think Amazing Atheists have brought this to my attention as well as the cast from Laceblow.com, and how they was pretty much bringing attention that a lot of people were making ridiculous tweets about stuff that is not important. Those stuff that people was mad about, that's not important. You're not getting that electronic you have, that's not important. What's important is being with your loved ones, being next to your loved ones, and saying, hey, I love you, man. Thank you very much for being there. Because there's no guarantee that loved one will be there for next Christmas. And as an example, for me, we have a lot of people. We lost a lot of people in my family. And it was definitely felt in that table. We gave thanks for those. And we also gave thanks for them for watching over us right now. I am very blessed to have 36 years of Christmas with some very loved ones and some friends that really did care for me and stuck by me from the very beginning. And that's, to me, is as important than anything else. And that's one of the reasons why I had made those two films, because that film also reminded me about some things in the past. It also reminded me not to let bitterness to become my downfall. So that's pretty much it. So guys, young people, keep that in mind. At Christmas, it is about family. It's about loving one another, and it's about telling that person, I love you. That's it for now, guys. I will leave. Again, I will love to hear your comments on this. I know this is the longest flashback review I've ever done, but then again, this was necessary. I did not want to do a back-to-back. I actually wanted to talk about this, get it off my chest while it's still fresh. And pretty much I'm going to keep it as is, because I'm going to do like a break period between that again. So if you see some special messages involving fellow producers at madexpression.com, that should give you at least a time. If you don't want to go through it, just click off and just go right straight to it. But I will recommend you at least check out their work, because again, these guys are awesome. These guys are great. I'm proud to work with the with the Matic Expression family. I've been there. Of course, this is going on my 3rd year. Amazing how this is not going to be my 3rd year there. Yeah, so if not, just click on it later on, go right straight to the second half. But I would like to hear your comments on this. I would like to hear your opinion on this. I think it's very important that you spread your opinion, especially if you see this film. If you see this film, that's great. Let me know what you feel about it. If you like it or didn't like it, that's okay too. Express yourself. Tell me what you think about this. And tell me what you think about this review as well. But for now, this is J77 saying take care, everyone. Happy holidays again. And see you in the new year. Take care.